Hello and welcome to the Agency Show by Client Joy. I'm Yash, co-founder and chief executive at Client Joy. At Client Joy, we help agencies manage their leads, proposals, contracts, projects, support, invoicing, and payments, the whole nine yards. The Agency Show is our podcast where we invite agency experts and owners who make 7+ figures a year to talk about their problems across their growth, fulfillment, and revenues. And we talk about their journey of solving these problems. If you're an agency owner, this show is for you. So do not forget to hit the subscribe button. In this episode of the Agency Show, we've got Dipak Vadera. He is sales manager at Leadfeeder and helps B2B companies streamline their prospecting. He also helps marketing teams generate sales qualified leads using just their website. This conversation is brought to you by Leadfeeder, the most definitive website visitor tracking software you'll ever need. You can find more about it on leadfeeder.com. Give this talk a listen if you're looking for sales strategies to grow your agency business. Hello and welcome everyone to this recorded webinar that we're having with Dipak today from Leadfeeder. So firstly, thank you Dipak for taking the time out today and talking to us about what are the sales strategies that agencies can use to acquire more leads. And before we start talking about specific topics in lead generation, it would be awesome if you can introduce yourself, in the sense, talk to us a little bit about what you've done thus far, what you're doing at Leadfeeder, what is Leadfeeder about, and essentially try and incorporate as many details as possible about why should agency owners listen to you when it comes to generating more leads. Yeah. So over to you.
Thank you very much, Yash, for having me over. It's my absolute pleasure. So like you said, I work for Leadfeeder. I'm the head of sales. I have worked with several agencies in the past at the former companies that I've worked at. So I've helped grow the partner program at Hootsuite, where I was working prior to coming over to Leadfeeder. And when I joined Leadfeeder as well, I was tasked with setting up our partner program, reaching out to agencies, and getting them to resell Leadfeeder, but also helping us, with that awareness piece and driving more users and clients our way, and in turn helping them generate some revenue as a result too.
Okay. Oh, awesome. So, diving into the first question right away. So, when you search online as an agency owner, sales generation or lead generation strategies for agencies, there are a host of articles that we come across, right? So there's content marketing that you could do. There's some amount of video marketing. There's ads. There's asking your existing clients for referrals and so on and so forth. However, during this specific difficult time while we are into this coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic, what are some of the strategies that you would recommend, which is essentially low investment, high yield kind of strategies that you believe would work for agencies?
I mean, these are unprecedented times that we're living through. No one has been through something similar. So it's really hard to say, what really works. It really depends on your business case, on your goals, your objectives, what you're working towards, your product and service and offering, and how that may be able to impact your clients. So there's no real answer to that. It really depends as to what's working for yourself. As from my point of view, what's worked for me personally is build brand, pushing out content for my audience, and ensuring that they are receiving that knowledge piece, that value piece. Even if I'm not directly selling to them, I'm still using this time to educate them. So when the time comes, at least they'll be able to make a better informed decision as to whether they should move ahead with the purchase or contracting our services.
So you'd still want to. So a lot of folks might argue that, and this is one of the things that I've heard about inbound marketing, right? That when you're doing content marketing, so typically an agency is basically restricted by the number of projects that they can do at once, right? So let's assume a 30-people digital marketing agency, they can do 8, 9, 10 projects at once, not more than that, right? And so they're limited by the number of people that they have as well. And when you're doing inbound marketing, specifically content marketing, where you are offering value to your audience, you can actually go through kind of a feast and famine experience, right? So where there are times where you have a lot of leads and you have to say no to people because you don't have enough people to fulfill those projects. However, then there are times when you don't have enough projects, right? And so there's no predictability in the amount of leads that you can generate through inbound or through content. So have you come across a model, or have you come across a way in which you can actually make either inbound predictable, or any other lead generation strategy that gives you predictable revenue or predictable number of leads, so that you can convert and kind of maintain that balance between the number of projects that you can fulfill and the amount of healthy leads that you should have?
I mean, relating to these times, it's hard to say, because no one has lived through times like these. If we're living in the prior normal, then it would be totally understandable, and there are certain tactics that you can apply then. Things that one could leverage on in this day would be just tapping into your existing client base to ensure that you have a constant funnel of people that you can reach out to. So things like, getting reviews from existing clients, ensuring that you are building up that pipeline of acquiring those reviews, so you have a lot more to share and push out, doing a lot more, investing a lot more in case studies and working on these to ensure that, every part of your service offering is covered and you can tap into the ideal industries that you're going after. Asking for referrals is very powerful. There's nothing like a word of mouth referral. And even tapping into the connections of your clients. So if you can go on LinkedIn, you are targeting X, Y, and Z companies. You know that in your network, so and so is already connected to them. Just not being afraid to ask for an introduction to them. If you've played your cards right, if you have a good relationship with them, then asking for that introduction shouldn't be that hard. Even joining and co-hosting webinars with your clients might help you, again, acquiring new clients, but also allowing you to tap into their user base. They ideally share that webinar with their users, and then maybe they'll get to know about your product and service as well. So those are some tactics that you might be able to engage in to try and continue having a funnel that's constantly full of people that you might be able to reach out to.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, right? Because we had this guest, Matthew Hunt, who we did our last webinar with, who also mentioned something around interviewing and doing webinars with your clients. And so he called it as something like leveraging other people's authority, right? And so their network, their authority, and so that way also you're able to essentially end up with some amount of leads that are coming in. So that actually answers my second question, right, which was around the target markets. Figure out what are some of the ways in which you can actually leverage, because leverage existing clients, right? Because existing clients for most of the agencies are the largest source of new clients, right? Because referrals and word.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, existing clients, they know you, they hopefully trust you as well. You will know who makes those end decisions at those companies. And you will also will be able to determine whether there are any opportunities that are emerging. You've got a good relationship with them. You know exactly what's happening behind the scenes at that given company. So that way you can kind of, I'd say, get a foothold in there and propose your service, because a need is going to come about, because you're already aware of the situation that they're going through. And just to add to that as well, it costs about 7 times more to acquire a new client than to sell to an existing one. So your existing client base are a powerful source of revenue there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it absolutely does cost more, right? And even if you acquire a new client, you've got to build that relationship from scratch, which also takes a lot of amount of effort. More importantly, you may have to start with some amount of freebies. You may have to start by offering certain amount of services or on top of those services for free, while all of those things are not true with existing clients, right? Existing clients, you've already kind of been there, done that. You build that much amount of trust, you build that much amount of relationship, and that's helpful. So correct me if I'm wrong. So what you're saying is, just to sum up some of the answer to leveraging existing clients to get new leads is essentially building a pipeline for getting the reviews, getting and talking to them over a webinar, and creating content along with them, which they can share on their social media. Going to and finding their connections on LinkedIn and then reaching out to them as well, and just plain old asking an existing client for a referral, right? That works as well. And so moving on to the next bit, one of the things that I wanted to ask you was that what are some of the tools that or what are some of the tools that you would recommend an agency to optimize their their process, right? So from starting from lead generation to obviously qualification, warming them up, negotiation to closure. So just right before fulfillment, right? Fulfillment begins, right? So what are some of the tools that you kind of would recommend to an agency? Let's say it's a digital marketing agency or an IT service agency. What are some of the tools that you would recommend for them to use during this pipeline, and why?
It really depends on what part of that sales cycle they're looking to optimize. But I'd say from a client management point of view, I'd say looking into tools like Databox, Google Data Studio, Supermetrics are some examples. Anything that can help you deliver a visual representation that can show the real impact of your efforts and really push on that ROI piece. Anything that gives you some quantifiable data that you can present to your prospects or clients in this case. Mr. Client, this is exactly what we've done for you, just to try and ensure that they do remain as clients. Because what we've found as well, it's very normal that during these times, people are going to be, companies are trying to get lean as possible as they can. So if you really need to double down on that ROI piece. This is exactly what we're doing for you, Mr. Customer, which is why you should continue working for us, if you can really show them that ROI piece. So I'd say that's something that agencies should really focus on. Just nurturing and working on growing that relationship with that end client. In terms of lead generation, so I'd say looking at things like Lead Feeder, so deciding what companies you should reach out to. So Lead Feeder shows you what companies have been on your website and what they get up to whilst on there. So if you're still building that pipeline, you at least know what companies you should reach out to. Project management tools should help as well prioritize certain aspects of certain clients' work versus others, or prioritize certain projects. I'd also say looking into certain marketing automation tools, and then obviously having Zapier there so you can plug it into as many other tools as possible and build an efficient workflow that could work.
Yeah. And so what is your tool stack, right? And as head of sales at Lead Feeder, obviously you use Lead Feeder, right? And it's super. So I had the opportunity to sign up and check it out, and it's super simple. Gives you what you need, and so really nice in the way that I'm able to actually identify people from which companies are actually visiting my website, and so it offers an insight that I've not been able to get through a host of tools that we were using, right? So we were using Google Analytics and Speculate, Hotjar, and so they were telling us about what people were doing, but who were they was not something that we knew. And so of course there's significant amount of value in platform like Lead Feeder, but I'd like to know, so at Lead Feeder, right? So what's your tool stack in terms of what are the tools that you would use?
Yeah, good point. So we use, for instance, Gemelius to track our email opens, our email sends, so we know what emails are performing best. We can A/B test certain email campaigns as well, and tailor emails accordingly, depending on how well when they perform better. We use Pipedrive as our CRM, so we pretty much work out of Pipedrive. So that also helps us, building those cadences, those follow-ups. So we pretty much work heavily out of Pipedrive. For productivity, most of the sales team use tools like Notion or Evernote, again, to keep track of either content they'll be pushing out, or personally, I use Notion to have a content calendar that allows me to, build and manage my content, the content that I'll be pushing out on LinkedIn, for example. I can keep track of that and create and formulate new content on there. We use other tools like Hunter.io to verify email addresses as well for cold approaches, for instance. But for the most part, my team deals with inbound inquiries. So it's generally easier for them to reach out to someone. And then obviously they'll be using LinkedIn for that knowledge piece, just understand a little bit better that end person that they're reaching out to, just so they can deliver a more personalized and bespoke offering when they do reach out to them.
So awesome, yeah. I mean, that's a fairly elaborate tool stack, right? And so it was interesting. One of the things that you mentioned that a lot of the leads that actually come in are inbound, right? And so one of the things that I've seen a lot of agency owners do is that they waste large amount of time on trying to figure out or work after wrong leads, right? So they spend about 60% of their time on working on leads that are not going to convert, right? And same maybe the scenario with you as well. And so one of the priority for a guy who's heading sales becomes, how do you identify with least amount of effort whether the lead that has come in is actually worth your salesperson's time or not, or effort or not, right? And so at Lead Feeder, if you're dealing with inbound inquiries, then what is the framework that you use, so that you're able to identify as quickly as possible, whether there should be more time and effort invested after or behind this particular lead.
That's a very good point. This is where we eat our own dog food. So we use Lead Feeder to kind of, go after certain companies, engage in account-based marketing. We have built our own lead scoring model using Lead Feeder as well. So we know if a prospect who visits our website meets this and this and this, based on the actions that they've carried out on the website, we consider them to be a good lead, and then hence one that we should then worth our effort in reaching out to them.
Oh, okay, awesome. That's really nice. Great here. So, and so I'll move on to the last question that I've had for you, right? So, which is where what are your signals? And so the reason behind asking this question is all of us as agency owners, we are inundated with significant amount of content, right? I mean, you search for something. I mean, before even the question pops up, there's like 15 articles that you'll be able to find, and like 10 videos and stuff like that. So in so much amount of noise, where do you get your insights from, or what are your signals? What are those sources of truth for you, or those resources that you look after? That okay, this is where Dipak goes to learn, right? For himself, or for Lead Feeder, or for growth.
Yeah, in the last 20 years, we've been bombarded with so much information than ever before. What I do personally, I get most of my sales knowledge from LinkedIn, at least nowadays. There's so much being pushed by various influencers, various experts and industry leaders on there. So I monitor certain hashtags that those personalities would be using, and I'd go on there to check those out on a regular basis. I do read a lot of books. I do listen to a lot of podcasts, audio books. So I do get some knowledge on there as well. But I like to keep up with what's happening in the moment, and I do that using LinkedIn primarily.
Can you share those specific podcasts or a couple of audiobooks for our audience to check those out as well, if that's possible? And
yeah, sure. So
that you follow on LinkedIn.
One of my favorite ones is Young and Profiting by Hala Taha. Audiobooks, it really depends what you're really into. I do like Simon Sinek's books, for instance. There's a lot on there. I'm happy to share individually with certain people, depending on what part of the sales cycle they're dealing with. I have some that might be relevant for SDRs, for account executives, for people working in CS. So happy to reach out. If someone does reach out to me, I'm happy to share them with them.
Awesome. So I'll be linking your LinkedIn profile in the description once the video is out, and anyone who's looking to specifically has a question around specific point of their sales cycle, they can reach out to Dipak and probably be able to share the resources that he follows, right? So that those signals can be sought after as well. And so I'd like to thank you for joining us on this recorded webinar and answering some of the questions that we've had. Of course, so one of the things that we've seen happen is that once the webinar is published, it of course goes out as an email to all of our users and also on our social media. There are some questions that people have that unfortunately I have not been able to ask you, and that may come up from some of the answers that you've given, right? And so I'll be tagging you in those posts, and hopefully if you can respond to those questions as well, that will be awesome as well.
Absolutely. Sounds good with me.
Awesome. So thank you again, Dipak, and we'll hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Cheers, Yash. Good speaking to you.